Outlaw 219 here, and what I have here is a packet that I got from www.handgunlaw.us. With everything we've been seeing in Virginia and some other states that have been getting smacked with some gun control issues, it's always good to go look at your state's laws in order to abide by it, or if you're looking or interested in carrying a firearm. This one's updated from 1/15 of 2020, so it's pretty current at this point. But again, if we, like the stuff we've seen in Virginia and some of the stuff that's gone on in Ohio, sometimes gun laws can change on a dime. That's why it's important to help your state and local organizations beat back anti-gun legislation. So if you look at my key, I didn't have access to a colored printer, but you're going to get the gist of this real quick, except for the resident only stuff. We'll talk about that for a brief moment. So for my Indiana residents, all these dark states that you see, these are states you cannot, I repeat, you cannot carry a firearm in. They do not honor our permit, as you've seen in the key down here, the legend right down there. So California, Nevada, Oregon, Washington, New Mexico, Nebraska, Minnesota, of course Illinois, South Carolina, which is surprising, and the majority of those crappy states on the East Coast, those are all no-nos. You cannot carry in those, neither in Puerto Rico, Virgin Islands, Hawaii, or the territories of the United States. Can't carry in any of those. Can carry in Alaska. I haven't looked through here and to see if you were going to go to Alaska. I know you have to lock that firearm up and it has to be TSA approved box. I haven't looked all the way through this packet about flying with a firearm, but I'm sure you can find that online just as I found this stuff. The internet is wonderful. Now, your Indiana resident permit only, that's only for New Hampshire and Vermont. That means you have to have a permit, a resident for your state only. So some of these other states, you can go and get like I can go get a permit to carry in Texas if they didn't, notify or didn't honor our permits. Same with Nebraska. When I went this past year, I didn't know I couldn't carry in Nebraska. I thought we could. Some of these states have requirements in order for you to fulfill it and get a permit. And that's why they don't honor our permit, because here in the state of Indiana, we don't have to have training, schooling, classes, and things of that nature. That's just how our permit is. We are a shall issue state, but if you're a felon or you're an abuser or something along that lines, or you're just pretty much a crummy human being, you're not going to get a permit in the state. It's just not going to happen. But if you're just an honest guy and you just want to carry a permit, you're good to go in the state of Indiana. It does tell you about how to go along getting your permit. I don't know how many times it happened to me today. People walk up to the gun counter and they ask to fill out a license to get a permit. You can't do that at a gun shop. You have to go through the Indiana State Police's website to get your permit. Luckily, permits are free this year for 2020 for the state of Indiana. So the only thing that you really pay for is your fingerprinting and then your local fee. So whatever police department is in your town, city, shire, whatever it may be, you have to pay them your local fee. That's the only thing you have to pay now. It used to be you had to pay for all three things, but now you only pay for two. I'd like to really knock that down to one thing, which would be your fingerprinting. I think that would be pretty manageable because it's only like $15. and it's done by an outside source, so it's not really even done by the government. I think everybody can flip $15 to get your fingerprints done. I don't think we should have to pay a fee to our local police department at all, but that's something to be desired on the other end. Down here, it gives you a good reference to permitless carry. Oklahoma just passed theirs, so this is pretty recent. And then permitless carry for residents only for Idaho, North Dakota, Wyoming. So that's only for them. So you'll need your permit to carry there. So it's not like these other states like New Hampshire, Oklahoma, and that you can do that without your Indiana permit. These other states, you have to have that permit. Just like in these other 2 states up there, you have to have your permit. You can't go out and get their other ones. This just gives you a lot of basic stuff about reciprocity and how the state honors other people's stuff. So that's pretty basic. Again, it tells you how to apply for a permit. So, it'll be 5 years now. They're not going to issue the 4-year anymore. It's just going to be 5 years. Or it's going to be the lifetime. I highly suggest you just go get the lifetime and be done with it. If you do have a 4 or 5 year license, just turn it over and get a lifetime permit. I think it's only a couple of bucks more. It explains it in this this process on how to do it, and it gives you all the basic information on how to do it. So, I mean, this is pretty self-explanatory. It talks about non-resident permits, protective orders. If you got one if you have a protective order on you, I forgot to mention that, you're not going to get a permit either. So, again, you have to be an upstanding citizen. We are a shall issue state, but if you're a scumbag and doing bad things, you're not going to get a permit. It's just that easy. But again, felons and criminals don't follow the law, so permits are pretty much useless in my eyes. But this is what you got to do if you want to carry a firearm in the state. So it goes a lot about school property. There has been some changes to school property. I highly suggest that you go look at that. Some of this other stuff is pretty straightforward. You still can't carry a gun at a casino. I don't care who you are. You can't carry it unless you're a law enforcement officer or security of that nature. It tells you about weapons and devices that are prohibited in the state. All kinds of stuff that's really useful information, and it's not like in horrible, legal mumbo jumbo. A lot of this stuff is just straightforward. Carry in state parks. You can carry in state parks. If anybody tells you can't carry it in state parks, they're wrong. It tells you some places that you can't carry, but you'll have to go through this and look at it like national forests. I don't think Indiana has like national forests. We have state parks and state reservations like the DNR stuff, but it'll still go through that for you about your RV and car without a permit. You can carry in your car, but there's certain stipulations that go about that. If you're going to carry a gun in your car to or from a range or to or from a gun shop, things of that nature. Open carry, you can open carry in the state of Indiana, but you have to have a permit. A lot of people think that that you can open carry in the state of Indiana. You can't unless you have a permit. It says it right there. You must have a valid permit/license to open carry in the state of Indiana. That's just the way it is. We had constitutional carry on the books. Unfortunately, it got shelved after Vegas, and no one's ever brought that back up. I think Representative Lucas did, but no one listens to him after he, fights his tail off for the Second Amendment. So I commend Mr. Lucas, and I wish he was in my district, but I got a bunch of shitbags in mine. So a lot of this stuff, the deadly force laws, that's something really to look at, especially in the state of Indiana. So it's got some knife laws in there for you. I mean, this packet is pretty cool about electric stun weapons. I mean, this gives you the basic rundown of what you can and cannot do, what you can and cannot have. Shall not be infringed means shall not be infringed, but unfortunately, according to some of these laws, you can't have this, that, and the other thing. We can go on for days about that. It tells you about your handgun license, what it looks like the old stuff, and now this is what the new stuff looks like. So there's a little bit difference to it. Instead of just getting some ratty card, they actually give you a hard plastic card, like if you're, you know, a member of some kind of gun rights organization or motor club or something of that nature. That's what they're going to. The plastic license, there's going to be no more of that stuff. That way they last longer. A lot of people that I see carry these old ones. I tell them, just go ask them for a new one. I mean, if you're still a law-abiding citizen, I don't see why they wouldn't give you a new one. That way it doesn't get trashed. Like this one, if you washed it, it probably wouldn't, nothing would happen. Trust me, I've washed mine before and nothing's happened to it. But if you have like one of them old paper ones, trashed, you have to get a new one. So I mean, this packet will help you out if you're brand new. If you're brand new to conceal and carry laws in the state of Indiana, this thing will help you out tremendously. This thing will help you out tremendously if you're moving around our great nation. And what states to avoid, or what states you're going to have to abide by if you stop, or anything of that nature. Again, the Midwest is it's pretty solid except for those 3 states. Everywhere else, you're good. And when you start moving out west, I mean, you start running into some problems along with the East Coast too. But it's mainly all those northern states that you have to look out for, except for South Carolina. Again, they have some kind of Night Strike tells me they had to do you have to do some kind of training or something to obtain a concealed carry license for that state, so that's why they don't honor ours. Unfortunately, Indiana honors pretty much everybody. I mean, you could live in like some weird place that no one's heard of, and we'd honor your permit. I've been lobbying quite a bit for them to not recognize Illinois' permit, since Illinois never recognizes anybody's permit, and if they do, you have to pay a boatload of money to carry a firearm in that state. So the hell with them. You know what I'm saying? We shouldn't have reciprocity with states that don't look at our permit. I mean, Indiana's a really lax state. It's a great state to live in. We don't have like phenomenal gun laws, but we have good gun laws on the books, and we enforce those. We don't like Virginia and these other crazy states. We just don't make shit up out of thin air and throw it on our populace. We don't do that. We enforce what's on the books and what has been on the books for years. Again, Representative Lucas has been trying to put in constitutional carry for so long and get rid of the permit stuff. That way, you know, we don't have to worry about this. But there has been pushback in legislature, and of course, guess who it is? It's the Democrats that want you to pay a shitload of money for a little piece of paper, even though, you know, the Second Amendment doesn't say you have to have a permit. But again, we can talk about that forever. But there's a lot of information in here about carrying a firearm, applying for your license, what you can and cannot do, where you can and cannot go with your firearm. We can debate that all day long. But this little packet, this will help you out. It's the www.handgunlaw.us. It's been helpful. I go to this site at the beginning every year and print something off to make myself aware of where I can and cannot go, and what I have to look out for when I travel around this beautiful country of the United States of America. So I hope that helps you out where to go get some information. I had somebody I forgot which video it was, asking if felons could own guns, they just couldn't carry them outside of their residence. That's false. Felons cannot have any kind of firearms whatsoever unless they are black powdered muzzleloader type of weapon of that nature, crossbows, things like that. They cannot possess firearms, no Glocks, folks, no Smith and Wessons, nothing of that. But you can, use muzzle loaders in that if you're a felon that hunts. And you can do that, but you can't obtain firearms, and you can't obtain a permit to carry a firearm if you're a felon in the state of Indiana. You just can't do that. So I hope that answers your question. I would like for everybody to go out and read this stuff and be aware of it. I don't want anybody to lose their rights for something so minuscule like traveling through the state of Illinois and getting pestered by their shitty gun laws. So again, I want to thank my old and my new subscribers, just the people that zip through the channel. I greatly appreciate. Like, comment, subscribe. Remember, you're going to have to follow these laws until things change. I understand gun laws are changing every so often, or at this point it seems like every other week or every other 3 weeks. But this is for the state of Indiana. If you're not an Indiana resident, I'm sorry I just bored you of tons of minutes of going through this. But for you my fellow Hoosiers, I hope this helps you out. Go to that website, print your own stuff off if you want to. Print a bunch off and give them to your friends, family, relatives, and the people that you love. And like always, catch you on the next one.